Good afternoon. It's Saturday, November 10th, 2019, and you see right there in the end of the stand I have a big empty hole. That's where hive 1 was sitting. Now it's being stored in the shed until such a time as either the rescue hive gets a lot of bees in it or spring comes and I do a split. But anyway, I was out here yesterday checking on a few things, and I checked the sugar feeders. They're all good. And then I checked the inspection boards for mites, and I found that this hive here, hive 2, was not so good. So I did an oxalic acid treatment on them yesterday, and I'm going to do a daily check on these girls and see how many mites are dropping out of them. Alright, so I'll be back in a moment. So I'm going to count these and do this every day. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. There's 27 on there, and that's after one day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this board, put it back in, and I'll check them again tomorrow. So I'll be right back. Alright, so that one's done. That's hive 2. Look at hive 3. And I see 0 mites on there. But I do see them opening a lot of their... When I cleaned this board yesterday, this was just yellow with cappings. So there's no mites in hive 3. Or at least on the inspection board. So I'll be back. Alright, hive 4. One, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 on there. Alright, so that's the first day after an oxalic acid treatment. So, I'll be back in a minute. So, that board is clean, put back in. I did put fresh sugar in this hive yesterday, just to top it up, and you can see the dark in the center there. That's bees up there feeding. And you can see the odd one down through there running about. And there's some running about at the screen vent hole at the back too. So I think these girls are in good shape. Alright. So as you can see, it's kind of gray and overcast. This is the first day we've had rain in like 2 weeks, and it's been sunny and clear. And the afternoon temperatures are like nice spring days. It's up around, 12, 13 degrees Celsius, which is about 54. Right now it's 11 degrees Celsius, which is about 52 Fahrenheit. And what I wanted to talk about here was, even though it's been clear and sunny, my hives have not been receiving a lot of sun, mainly because of that gigantic cedar tree and the big maple tree there. That cedar tree blocks a lot of the sun this time of year from the backyard, and it really doesn't appear down here in the backyard until it gets over to the right hand side of that tree, and by that time 3 o'clock in the afternoon, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon anyway, and then it's starting to chill off again. So the bees have been out foraging a bit, but not as aggressively as what I've been observing down at Norman's apiary. His hives are all in full sun from morning till night, and I was down there yesterday and you would swear that it was the middle of the summer the way the bees were foraging, and they're coming in with a ton of pollen and stuff. So your present location kind of dictates whether your bees are going to have a chance to get out or not. Anyway, the other thing is I've had some feedback on why hive 1 might have died, and it was pointed to, and even Norman mentioned this, pointed to poisoning. Now, when I didn't take video of it or pictures of the bees after I spread them out to check for a queen, but there was probably a quarter of them had their tongue sticking out, which is, from my research I've been doing the last couple of days, indicates poisoning. And for the life of me, I have no idea how that would happen, unless some of the neighbors around here have been spraying their trees or maybe bleaching their roofs to get rid of the moss. And these bees out of hive 1 may have just been in that place to collect some of that stuff, and of course it's killed off most of the bees. I took my inspection camera yesterday and just checked the bottom boards of these 2 hives here. Of course you can't get it in hive 4 because the bees don't like the camera being in there and they just go after it. But when I checked these 2 hives, now you can see she's dragging out a dead little girl there. She's dragging out a dead bee. There she goes. Anyway, when I checked, there was maybe 1 or 2 dead bees on the screens on the inside there. And the 1 dead bee I did see in hive 3 had its tongue sticking out, which is kind of worrisome. But it was the only one that was in there, so I'm going to have to keep a close eye on this hive. Alright, so now I mentioned that Norman's hives are out foraging like crazy, and I'm going to tell you why that's important in a few minutes here. I'm going to go in and show you what I've been doing with the rescue hive. There she goes, she's going back in. Alright, so I'll be back shortly. Alright, so the rescue hive update. So if you saw my previous video, you will have seen that I had this feeder dish inside the feeder box and it was leaking, and you can still see some of the sugar on the bottom of it. And now you can see how thick that rim is and how flexible it is. So this is the replacement dish, and you can see I've made that rim quite a bit thicker, and I've also printed this so that it was solid, and I have tested it for 7 hours with just straight water, no leaks. So this is going to work perfectly when I decide to use them. So now, some news about this little gaffer of a hive. Bring that up here. So, now I showed you those sugar dishes. I took that leaking sugar dish out of the box. It was on top of the center hole there, and that gave me an opportunity to have a peek down in there with a flashlight, and I saw dead broods sticking out of frames with their tongues sticking out. and same as what was in the frames that were in hive 1. So I took this feeder box off, and I started pulling frames out, and because I wanted to get rid of those frames, so I started pulling frames out, and to my surprise, there was only like 40 or 50 bees in here. And the ones that did fly up, of course, they flew into the window trying to escape, but that was easy enough to catch with my queen catcher and put them back in. So what I did was I took those 2 frames out that had the brood on it, and in the center of that little cluster of bees, I did find a queen, but it's not the queen I was expecting to see. I was expecting to see a blue marked queen. Instead, there was a long, skinny, brand new queen, and I am not sure if she is mated or not. She was really long, but she was not as fat as I would expect to see a mated queen. However, when I took those 2 frames with the dead bees out, I did see like about a quarter-sized patch of cells where she had been laying eggs, and there was actually a couple of grubs that hatched. So I'm still green around the gills when it comes to beekeeping. I don't know if that means that she's mated or not, so maybe you can let me know in the comments. And yeah, so I put in 2 frames of uncapped honey, partially filled, and there was space for the queen to lay if she's able to lay. And so I put in those, they're clean frames, they weren't from this box. So I put them in there, and I put all the bees that were in there back in. Now, I thought I needed to bolster the amount of bees that were in this box. And so I had this little screen cover here for the center hole from last summer when I was combining or adding new bees to a nuke, and that seemed to work really well. So what I've done is I've tied a string to it, and I made up this piece of plywood with just a hole in the top of it, and the string comes out through the top so that I can lift it up. Now, I know if you want to add more bees to a colony, you're really supposed to take a frame of brood with nurse bees on it, but our hives are all closed up for the winter, and I didn't want to tear apart the hive. So I devised another plan, and I don't want you to think I'm crazy or anything, but so far it seems to be working. So what I did was I had this plastic box. It was from a product that I ordered, and so I 3D printed this cover for it. And this is for ventilation, and this is for letting them out. And I went down to Norman's because his hives are really strong right at the moment, and I just opened this up, folded it back so it would be easy to close after, and I just put that box right over the entrance to the hive, and within 15 to 20 seconds this was half full of bees that were going out to forage. And then I closed it up, and I brought it up here, and I took this little plug out of that hole, and I set that over top of that and put this black toque over it because, you know, they were seeing the sunshine from the window, and I didn't want them to see the sunshine, so I put this black toque just down over the box, and like so, and the bees started making their way into the feeder box. Now they couldn't get into here, couldn't get into the bottom box, but they could get into the feeder box. And then about half an hour, I came and checked, and all the bees had gone from here down into the feeder box, and then I was just able to close that up and let them sit there for several hours. There was a lot of buzzing going on, a lot of fanning, and, you know, commotion, a lot of commotion. And after a while, they just settled down. Everything was quiet. I took my flashlight and just peeked down through the hole, and all the bees were sitting over top of the screens. And they were nice and calm. They were just sitting over top of the screens. Here they're very calm in there, very quiet. And so I just closed them up. And you just take this string, and I lifted it up so that center cover, that screen that's in that little plug, I call it, was, you know, up about halfway up, and then the bees just started going down into the box. So you're going to see how that works. I'm not going to open these guys up because, you know, we're indoors, and then I'd have, you know, 200 or 300 bees to catch off the window, because that's exactly where they would go. And so I'm just going to wait and see what happens. So let me know in the comments what you think of my plan, if you can call it a plan. And please let me know what you think about this Skinny Queen. I know I didn't get video or pictures of her. She looked really healthy, but she was just a lot skinnier than what I would expect. But she did have a really long abdomen, so she could be mated, she couldn't be, or she may not be. I don't know. So that's all I have for today. So please let me know, and I do appreciate your comments and your criticisms and your suggestions. As like I said, I'm pretty green around the gills when it comes to beekeeping, and the more information I can get, the more I learn. And yeah, so I hope you're all having a good day. Tomorrow here, it's Remembrance Day tomorrow, and I believe in the States is Veterans Day. I may be incorrect on that, but I hope you all have a good Remembrance Day or Veterans Day, depending on where you are. And yeah, so we'll talk to you again soon, and I'll keep you updated on the situation with this hive. All right, thanks for watching. Bye for now.